Dana White just announced it. Arman Tsarukyan ain't going to like it, but it doesn't matter because we do. Paddy Pimblett versus Justin Gaethje for the interim lightweight UFC Championship of the world, kicking off the new era.
Arman Tsarukyan is crying in a hotel room as we speak. I just saw Arman Tsarukyan sink to his knees in a Target somewhere. This is really, really bad news for him, but really great news for fight fans.
Dana White has just thrown the MMA world into a frenzy after announcing the main event for the very first Paramount UFC card. And let me tell you, people are talking. The big matchup is Justin Gaethje versus Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. And they're not just fighting for bragging rights. They're fighting for the interim title at UFC. But this announcement has triggered some serious backlash from fans and analysts alike, who are all asking the same exact question. Why in the world is Arman Tsarukyan, the undeniable #1 contender, being left out in the cold once again?
Obviously, you just saw Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett for the interim title. Earlier, Topuria posted, I'm dealing with some personal problems, so I'm not gonna fight the first quarter. So the winner of Gaethje versus Paddy will be the interim title, and then they will face Topuria.
Of course, Arman Tsarukyan himself is just as baffled and disappointed as everyone else about this Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett booking for the UFC 34 T4 main event. Taking to social media, Arman simply wrote, "Make it make sense," which perfectly captures the frustration of so many fans. On the flip side, however, you have Paddy Pimblett, who is absolutely over the moon to get this massive opportunity and is already setting some incredibly ambitious goals for two. His focus is crystal clear. First, he plans to win this interim title. Then he wants to be the one to face Ilia Topuria to become the undisputed champion of the world. And after all that, he says he wants to face Arman Tsarukyan as well, promising to take him on if Arman ever actually decides to step into the cage with him.
First ever time when we fought in January, the earliest I've ever fought. It's going to ruin my Christmas dinner and my birthday because I'm 31 like 3 weeks before it. But it's all going to be worth it when I lift that real title above my head and Paddy the Baddy is a world champion. And 2026 is going to be the biggest year of my life. I am coming for that interim title, then I'll be making it the undisputed title when I come and beat Ilia Topuria up and take the undisputed title. And then little posh boy, if he manages to fight in that time, because he likes sitting out and saying he's got a sore back, if little posh boy fights in that time and keeps his ranking, I'll punch his head in as well.
Meanwhile, you've got one of the biggest voices in MMA media, Ariel Helwani, who is absolutely ripping into the Gaethje versus Paddy interim title fight. He's openly questioning why the top contender, Arman Tsarukyan, was completely overlooked for this spot. Helwani didn't mince words, calling the matchup makeshift and comparing it to something like a BMF title, a belt created for show rather than necessity. He drove the point home by saying an interim fight wasn't even needed since Ilia Topuria just recently reclaimed the belt. Helwani argued that the logical move should have been to schedule a proper #1 contender fight later in the year. He's left wondering what on earth Arman has to do to finally get a title shot, especially after his string of dominant performances, including the one against Dan Hooker.
55 pounds is a guy named Arman Tsarukyan, and he's not involved in this fight. This is a makeshift fight. This is as prestigious as a BMF title. God bless. I said I wanted to see Paddy fight for the belt. God bless. But this is a bogus fight, and it's insane to me that it is headlining over Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes. On paper, Paddy versus Justin is a fine fight to determine the #1 contender to fight Ilia and or Arman. Ilia won that belt back in June. I don't even think you need an interim title fight. Honestly, it should have been the co-main event, 5-round, #1 contender fight, Ilia versus Arman, second half of the year. What's the problem with that? And now what you just said, because he reiterated this in the Instagram Live, the winner of this fight is going to fight Ilia. What happens to Arman? Arman's going to have to fight who? What is going on?
So, what more does Arman Tsarukyan possibly have to do to get a legitimate shot at the belt? Ariel Helwani laid it out perfectly, pointing out that Arman did everything right. He patiently recovered from an injury, came back, and then completely dominated a veteran killer like Dan Hooker, with a seriously impressive ground finish. Despite proving he's the top guy, he's now been left in total limbo, not even slated as the next in line. Helwani blasted the decision to put Justin and Paddy in this interim title fight, with the winner then facing Ilia, calling the entire scenario insane. He expressed pure shock that a fight like this is actually headlining the massive debut card on Paramount.
Patiently, he went out there. He steamrolled right through Dan Hooker. He did exactly what he had to do. He did what Khamzat and Islam did not do. He finished his opponent on the ground in dominant, impressive fashion. And now what is he? Now he's just floating in the wind. And he's not even next, apparently. Now, of course, everything can change. Nothing really means anything. They make up the rules as they go along. But to put Justin and Patty in the interim title slot and then have the winner of that fight Ilya is insane to me. And worse than that, because we have seen interim title fights that have felt a little fugazi. I cannot believe that they are headline.
Adding to the chorus of criticism, Eric Jackman didn't hold back, calling the Gaethje versus Pimblett interim title fight one of the most meaningless in recent memory, and drawing a direct comparison to the controversial Cyril Gane versus Derek Lewis interim title fight. He then added a crucial point. This situation is actually much worse, because it's so blindingly obvious that Arman Tsarukyan is clearly ahead of both fighters in the rankings and deserving of the shot. Jackman said, and I quote, "Gaethje and Pimblett are fighting for one of the most insignificant interim titles. This is Gane-Lewis levels, made much worse by the fact that Arman is so clearly ahead of both." And Luke Thomas chimed in as well, slamming the UFC's matchmaking and agreeing that the fans' outrage is completely justified. He believes that decisions like this one, which prioritize profit over legitimate matchups that determine the best fighter, are the kinds of things that gradually weaken the entire product over time.
You are going to hollow out your product doing shit like this long enough. It's not just that you're not meeting expectations. You're just not. The fight business has always been one of manipulation. The fight business has always been one of the promoters massaging stuff to get what they want. It's a part and parcel of what they do. This is hardly some new practice, right? But it feels like there are moments in time where you can't really f around with that. And that's kind of what we're getting here. We're getting a lot of that. We're getting fights where there's obvious ways to go a different direction and they just don't go that direction, clearly because they've got some other aim in terms of how they want to generate revenue. They're just extracting wealth out of the bout rather than matchmaking for a real clear sense of who's the best.
On the other side of the coin, you have Justin Gaethje, who is absolutely ecstatic to get what could be another massive chance to become a champion before he even considers retiring. He reacted to the fight announcement by showing his appreciation for the chance to kick off this brand new partnership between the UFC and Paramount+. He's radiating confidence heading into his interim title battle against Paddy Pimblett and is laser focused on delivering yet another unforgettable performance for the fans. In his mind, this is a golden opportunity to prove, once again, that he belongs among the most thrilling and elite fighters of this entire era. Justin Gaethje himself said, "What a ride it is. So thankful for the opportunity to start off this new partnership with the UFC and Paramount+. Perfect dance partner for another unforgettable night to prove once again. I'm one of the best and most exciting fighters of this era. I'll be ready to go." Now, all of this drama really kicked off when the champion, Ilia Topuria, decided he would not be fighting in January. Ilia was originally scheduled to fight on this first Paramount UFC card, but he revealed that he won't be able to defend his belt in the first quarter of the year due to some serious personal issues. He shared that he's dealing with a divorce and tragically hasn't seen his daughter for some time. Topuria plans to resolve these incredibly important family matters first before he can return fully focused to defend his title. Topuria stated, "I won't be fighting in the first quarter of next year. I'm going through a difficult moment in my personal life. I want to focus on my children and resolve the situation as soon as possible. I don't want to hold up the division. The UFC will make the matchups needed, and as soon as the matters are resolved, I'll let the UFC know I'm ready to begin my return." In a moment of pure class, Max Holloway responded to Topuria's tweet, showing incredible support for his tough situation. He mentioned that he knows firsthand just how hard it is to fight while trying to care for your family and kids, and he wished Ilia all the best in dealing with it. Max Holloway said, "Sorry to hear, champ, if it's what I'm hearing it is. I know the struggle firsthand trying to fight while protecting your kids. Hope all goes well." Ilia Topuria then thanked Max for his concern and kindness, saying, "All the best for you and your family." Even Michael Bisping weighed in, acknowledging that Ilia Topuria is going through a legitimately difficult time outside the octagon due to a divorce. He explained that personal challenges like that are incredibly distracting and make it nearly impossible to focus on the intense training and preparation required for a championship fight. And Bisping added that he wished Ilia nothing but the best.
Through a divorce right now, so of course that's a tough time for anybody, and it is very, very distracting. You can't focus on a fight in the training camp, certainly an opponent when you're going through a divorce. So I'm certainly not going to talk about that any more than what I have done there. Ilia, we wish you nothing but the best.
However, not everyone is buying the official story. Former champion TJ Dillashaw has a different theory, and he believes that Ilia Topuria is actually avoiding a fight with Arman Tsarukyan. He noted that while Ilia is undeniably one of the most skilled fighters in the entire UFC right now, Arman poses a very real and specific threat. Dillashaw pointed to Arman's size, his strength, his incredibly clean boxing, and his powerful grappling as all the ingredients that make it an extremely difficult stylistic matchup for a champion like Topuria.
Ilia has expressed interest about moving up and maybe trying to face Makhachev. How realistic is this scenario, do you think? Does it leave Tsarukyan in limbo at lightweight?
Stupid. He's not moving up. Like, come on. There's too many horses in the stable at 170.
I'm moving up.
Yeah.
Is he trying to run from Arman? Is Ilia running from Arman?
I do think so.
Oh,
okay. That's
I do think so.
Hello.
With that said, I think that Ilia Topuria.
Who wouldn't want to run from Arman? Have you seen him before?
I'm running from him currently. I don't even know the guy I'm running from.
I do think Ilia Topuria is the highest skilled fighter in the UFC right now, but I do think he is threatened by Arman. Arman's big. He's strong. He's great at the weight class. His boxing is clean, great grappling. It's a tough fight for him to where he can go to 70s. Maybe he doesn't get the win. It doesn't make sense to me. The only fight for Ilia Topuria right now is Arman.
In contrast to that cynical take, analyst Dean Thomas praised Ilia Topuria for handling his personal situation with a great deal of responsibility. He pointed out that many other fighters in his position might have selfishly held on to the belt and made the entire division wait for them. But instead, Ilia graciously allowed other contenders to compete for an interim title to keep things moving. Thomas also expressed admiration for the fact that Ilia recognized his personal problems would negatively affect his performance and wisely chose to step back rather than try to push through it unprepared. He concluded by wishing Ilia success in resolving his issues so that he can return to the octagon fully focused and ready to fight.
So if my hat goes off to Ilia for doing that, because a lot of fighters would be like, no, I'm going to hold on to it and make everybody wait. So my hat's off to him for pulling that, the Khalil, not Khalil, but the Jamal Hill and the Yuri Prohashka, right? Like saying, right. I'm going to sit back and I'm going to let these other guys fight for it and let them shake things out the way it needs to shake out. So even though he's not relinquishing the belt, he is letting somebody fight for the interim belt. So my hat's off to him for doing that. And when you have personal problems, you're not going to be able to fight well. And he understands that. So hats off to him for also recognizing that and not just trying to push through, because typically we'd be like, oh man, he should be fighting anyway. But the fact that he's recognizing that he's not going to be able to give us his best work and he needs to sit out for a while, hopefully things get better for him. And I'm wishing him all the luck and success in getting those things behind him so he can come back and fight.
Dean Thomas went on to say that this whole situation really highlights the new direction that Paramount is pushing the UFC towards, and it's a direction that focuses heavily on fighters who are guaranteed to entertain the fans. He explained that this creates an almost unfair burden for the fighters, who now not only have to win their fights, but also have to take big risks and inflict exciting damage just to please the audience. He noted that grappling-oriented, technically brilliant fighters like Arman Tsarukyan may not get the same level of fan attention or promotional push as fan favorites like the brawler Justin Gaethje, even though Arman would likely jump at the chance to take an interim title fight in a heartbeat.
Well, I know someone who's not happy, and I'm sure that's Arman Tsarukyan, right? I'm sure he believes he deserves to be in this fight, and he was saying even after the win, like, didn't take any damage. If they want me to fight in January, that's when he's being asked about Ilia, but I'm sure if they called him to fight either of these guys for an interim belt, he would have done it.
And it's unfortunate, too, because we put this burden on these fighters, but it says a lot, though. It says a lot about the direction that Paramount wants to go with the UFC, really. It says that, listen, we want guys that are going to bang. And And it's an unfair burden that we put on fighters to say, we want you to win, be successful and win it. And you also have to entertain us by putting your neck on the line and taking a lot of chances and taking damage in the process. Because when you got guys like Justin Gaethje, that's what they do, but they're fan favorites. A guy like Arman Tsarukyan might not be a fan favorite because he's so grappling oriented.
Building on that point, Dean Thomas believes that Paramount's main goal right now is for the UFC to focus on whatever it takes to attract more viewers. He made it clear that without widespread attention and eyeballs on the product, the sport simply can't grow. While he acknowledges that Arman Tsarukyan absolutely deserves a title shot and that his time will eventually come, Thomas explained that the UFC's current priority is to push fighters who bring a high level of entertainment value. And unfortunately, those who don't prioritize that entertainment factor might find themselves facing some major obstacles.
So it's kind of telling of where the direction of where they want the UFC to go, because they're trying to get eyeballs, man. Without eyeballs, the sport goes nowhere. So for Arman Tsarukyan, he might have to sit out for a little bit, but you know, he definitely deserves it and his time is coming. It's just, I think right now, Paramount and the UFC is kind of establishing that, you know, we're going to want some entertainers in there. And if you're not entertaining us, if entertainment is not a part of your priority, then that might be an issue.
Meanwhile, Adam Catterall firmly believes that Arman Tsarukyan has earned his spot in this interim title fight and deserves to be there. He suggested a couple of potential reasons why Tsarukyan might have been passed over. First, he might still be getting punished for once withdrawing from a title fight on short notice. And second, there are simply bigger, more marketable names in the division right now. Catterall added that it's clear that business decisions are now taking priority over pure sporting merit. As he put it, Arman Tsarukyan should be in the interim title fight, in my opinion. He isn't, and this is a complete guess because he pulled out of a title fight on less than 24 hours notice, and there are bigger profiles than him in the division. Business has surpassed sporting merit. On the other hand, Michael Bisping broke down the actual Paddy Pimblett versus Justin Gaethje matchup, calling it extremely competitive. He noted that Gaethje, even at 36 years old, is still a consistently exciting and powerful fighter with a strong foundation in wrestling, striking, and devastating leg kicks. Bisping did acknowledge Gaethje's shocking knockout loss to Max Holloway, but said that's not a typical performance for him at all. He also gave a lot of praise to Paddy Pimblett, highlighting his dominant win over Michael Chandler and his undefeated UFC record, calling him a very real threat in this fight.
But this is a very, very tough competitive matchup. Now, Justin Gaethje is no spring chicken. I think he's 36 years old. But you know what you're going to get with Justin Gaethje. Yes, of course, against Max Holloway at UFC 300, he got knocked out. He got embarrassed. He got face planted. I tell you what, it was a shocking scene, okay? But that's not normally what happens with Justin Gaethje. He is one of the most exciting fighters. They do call him the human highlight reel for a reason. He's got great wrestling, but the boxing, the striking, the leg kicks, the punch power that he has. I'm telling you, this man is no joke. And neither is Paddy Pimblett, right? We saw last time against Michael Chandler, he is the real deal. He absolutely smoked him. He's undefeated in the UFC, put a beating.
Digging deeper into the matchup, Michael Bisping thinks this fight represents Justin Gaethje's final, ultimate opportunity at a big win and another shot at gold. He reminded everyone that Gaethje has already had 2 title shots against legends like Charles Oliveira and Islam Makhachev. And while facing Paddy Pimblett is certainly an easier matchup on paper compared to a monster like Makhachev, Bisping highlighted the unique challenge that Pimblett poses. He predicted that Paddy will try to use movement, circle the octagon, and avoid standing toe-to-toe in a firefight with Gaethje, who possesses serious, one-punch knockout power. But he warned everyone not to underestimate Pimblett, because after all, Bisping called it a phenomenal fight.
And for Justin Gaethje, this is the final go. This is the final crack of the whip. The man's had 2 title fights in the past, Charles Oliveira to Khabib Nurmagomedov, and now he gets to go up against Paddy Pimblett. Now, talking about the matchup, of course, it is an easier fight for Justin than what it is against Khabib Nurmagomedov, one of the greatest of all time. Islam Makhachev, the current pound for pound, and according to many people, a man that is surpassing Khabib Nurmagomedov, right? So in that regard, it is an easier matchup. Will Paddy be able to take him down? Will he dance around the octagon? Yes, he will. Will he try and replicate the game plan of Max Holloway? Of course he will. Who wouldn't try and do that? You aren't going to stand and go toe-to-toe with Justin Gaethje because the man does have knockout power. But underestimate Paddy at your peril. That's all I'll say about that one, but that is a phenomenal fight.
Moreover, MMA Guru chimed in with his own prediction, saying he believes Paddy Pimblett will be able to defeat Justin Gaethje by mixing in his grappling and striking, while carefully maintaining his distance. He thinks Paddy will be smart enough to avoid being one of those fighters who just trades punches in the pocket, which is exactly where Gaethje wants the fight to be. He also noted that Gaethje is getting closer to the end of his career, which could be a factor. The Guru also expressed a lot of sympathy for Arman Tsarukyan, who is the real victim in all of this, and may now have to fight someone else to stay busy, suggesting that scheduling and timing choices might explain the UFC's decision, even though it leaves Arman in a really tough spot.
Pimblett's beating him. Mixing up the grappling and the striking, staying at range, not being in the pocket with him like a Chandler would be, like a Fiziev would be. I reckon Pimblett's going to beat him. Gaethje coming towards the tail end of his career. I just want to mention now, Arman Tsarukyan is... this is tough for Arman. Okay, he's probably going to have to fight someone else. He said he would be on this card. I don't know if they then called him and he said, no, I can't be on that card, and that's why they've done this. If that's what comes out from this, I guess it could be a bit more understandable, because otherwise it would have been Nunes Harrison to main event, and we just can't.
Wrapping up his thoughts, MMA Guru called the Gaethje versus Pimblett fight absolutely insane and said it's a massive matchup with a tremendous amount of hype behind it. He joked about how Pimblett magically rose all the way to number 5 in the rankings, calling it Scouse magic, and noted that this incredible leap is what earned him this interim title shot. As an Englishman himself, he's obviously excited for Pimblett, but he also pointed out the reality of the situation. Gaethje had basically demanded a title shot or threatened retirement, and in the end, the UFC gave him exactly what he wanted.
This is insane. Gaethje versus Pimblett is an absolutely insane fight. I'm looking forward to it. This is a massive, massive matchup. Ton of hype on the line, but I do want to mention, Pimblett has floated up to number 5 in the rankings. Magically. Scouse magic, dude. Scouse magic. Don't ask for that on a street corner in Liverpool, by the way, but this is some Scouse magic. Okay? He just levitated his way into an interim title shot, which is insane, but fair enough. As an Englishman, I'm all on board with this. But, you know, it is what it is. I think he'll beat Gaethje, but let it be known, Gaethje said, I'm not fighting ever again, and I'll retire if you don't give me a title shot. And they fucking bent their knee. They bent.
And that is the whirlwind of controversy, excitement, and high-stakes drama surrounding this brand new main event. What do you think about this fight card? Is this a sellout move by the UFC that disrespects the rankings, or is it a blockbuster fight that you absolutely can't wait to see? Share all your thoughts about this fight card down in the comment section below, and make sure to subscribe to our channel so you can get more updates about the latest UFC content.